Here we are, and yet another part of this multi-part unit in terms of PowerPoints. And we're going to take a look at mining. There is really no sustainable flip side of mining. It's all highly impactful on the earth. The footprint is quite large, and there's really no good way around it other than using more sustainable materials besides what we mine for. So I'm not going to have the flip side in this PowerPoint, but just keep in mind as we go through it that the more sustainable way is to use other resources and, honestly, recycle. So here are essential knowledge points of mining. They are large in volume, but we'll hit them all. Or not volume, lots of words. So read over them. But we need to talk about mining because that's how we get material. So here we go.
To get it. And so what we're mining for is actually minerals, and we get that from ore. So ore is actually the rock that contains the material, or economically valuable material. So lots of metals, sand, salt we also mine for. But once we actually get that ore, we actually need to refine it. And so we get the excess or the tailings off of our ore, and then we refine it. So we heat it and separate it out from its impurities through heat, pressure, and chemicals. And so here is a nice little picture about kind of how, a little vocab list as to what we're looking at. So, right, we're looking at the ore, and we want to separate out the ore from this excess rock that it's in. And then from that, we get our tailings, like more excess stuff, more excess waste, and we get a concentrated ore of very high mineral content. We refine it, and you end up with slag, which is all that impurity and waste product, and then the pure metal. And so our ore is, finite as well. Seems like a lot, but on the human scale, that's a lot, right? We have to think about the earth, and are there going to be humans in another 40 years or 120 years? Well, maybe there might not be any iron left, and then what would he do? But as we mine for these minerals, we're going to have to get less pure ore, or really, really low grade ore, more often, because we've already mined out the high quality ore. And so what does that really mean, right? These high grade ores have very high mineral content with very few impurities, so we don't have as much waste. Whereas in low grade ores, you have a very low mineral content, more impurities, a lot more energy needed to actually mine and refine this, more waste product, like I said, and because of that, obviously more pollution. And so if you look at the graph up there, you have the amount of high grade copper that that we have mined, in the past, and it's decreasing because we have to go with lower and lower grade ore because we've already mined the good stuff. And so here's another infographic on how we can mine ore. So there's surface mining and subsurface mining. And so surface mining includes strip mining, open pit mining, and mountaintop removal. They're basically what they sound like. And you can see really the pictures do a better job than I would explaining what they are. And subsurface, right there, you're actually going underground. And this is pretty dangerous for people, very expensive, because not only are you starting to like drill down into the earth and make things stable, you're also paying for like externalities like, health of your workers and insurance and stuff like that. I mean, of course, you are worried about that with other things, but because the subsurface is so much more dangerous, those are obviously more expensive. And so when you hear about coal miners trapped in the mine, this this is it, right, in the subsurface mind. So what are the effects of mining? Well, there's obviously habitat destruction. I mean, you're literally taking away the land and moving it. There's carbon emissions from the actual machine combustion of fossil fuels as you're doing it. So the machines you're using are combusting fossil fuels to mine. There's tailings and slag, which are waste products that have stuff in them that react with water and air to produce other stuff, which we'll talk about. There are particulates in both mining and refining. So when we talk in the future about air pollution, particulate matter is one of the criteria air pollutants. The smaller the particulates, the more harmful it is. I'm sure everyone has heard of black lung. And so right here's a beautiful picture of a coal miner's lung. And then methane is also released because, especially in coal, you have methane present in the coal seams that you're mining for, and that gets released. And so that's actually super dangerous in subsurface mining for people because it's explosive and people can, you also need oxygen. And so if it's full of methane, that can be really toxic for you. But not to mention, methane is also a major greenhouse gas. So of course, mining has an effect on water and groundwater. Anything that happens in the water really will percolate down into the groundwaters or infiltrate down into the groundwater. So, keep that in mind. Right, there's sedimentation. If I'm breaking apart the earth with surface runoff, you're going to end up with sediment in nearby water bodies. Acid mine drainage also happens where the water infiltrates down into the mine and actually reacts with some sort of sulfur-containing material, which is a lot of stuff, depending on what you're mining for. In the picture here, it's pyrite, or if your coal has a lot of sulfur in it, depending on the type of coal. But nonetheless, you end up with sulfuric acid, and that acids will dissolve metals into the water, and then the water drains out of the mine, and you end up with acidic, metallic, right, or metal contaminated water. And that's no good for aquatic life or really any life. And so just in leading into that, or leading from that, right, is metal contamination. So I'm mining for metals, there's going to be metals exposed.